Hi there, students. It's the Prime Minister here, and I wanted to speak to you directly about something very important.
Back on the 10th of December 2025, Australia brought into effect an age restriction law which prevents anyone under the age of 16 from accessing designated social media platforms. The totality of the list of affected websites is relatively short, but if those listed do not adhere to the ban, a hefty fine of up to $49.5 million is promised.
Talk to your parents, your teachers, and your friends.
In terms of how all of this will be enforced, most companies are supposedly going to rely on common sense approaches such as inferring the age of a given account owner based on how old the account is, for example, or they could use face scanning, which is proven to be not exactly 100% reliable. But companies are also allowed to ask for government-issued IDs, but importantly, this must not be mandatory to gain access to a given platform. I wonder how that's been playing out.
Have a great summer.
For those of you who don't know, and that's probably more than a few, Substack was primarily a newsletter publishing platform that allowed people to post with entirely free access, charge a subscription to access their work, or have a mixture of both. The platform has developed into more than just a newsletter over the years, where it's hosting videos, podcasts, and music, and I found it to be a perfect fit for my website. The day before Christmas Eve, I logged into my Substack website, the place I paid to associate with a custom URL and where I'd been posting my works, which include creative writings, music work in progress blogs, Jacob was a crafter, he wasn't video edits, animations, and general ramblings. It's also where I pay for a subscription to John Sunman's newsletter, Sunman Figures It Out, which I highly recommend. After signing into my website, I was met with some absolute fuckery. I did a quick spot of Googling and it was clear I wasn't the only one greeted with this bullshit. Substack had effectively locked me out of my account and I couldn't post or edit anything, and I couldn't even manage my subscriptions or access a Substack chatbot for help. Like me, others weren't willing to make a video of their face, nor were they willing to hand over their government-issued ID if the selfie process failed. There were some who apparently begrudgingly complied with Substack's demands. Reminder, Substack were not required to verify age. The age verification process was all being powered by a third-party provider that goes by the name of Persona. Persona's privacy policy is a quagmire of confusion when it comes to what exactly happens to the data they collect. I'm not even remotely au fait with anything resembling privacy or law, but they make the following statements on their website. Persona does not sell or share personal data collected for age assurance with third parties, although the definition of what exactly constitutes a sale does seem to vary. Third-party vendors may have access to the data from scans of facial geometry extracted from the photos of your face that you upload to provide some or all of the analysis, to store the data, to maintain backup copies, and to service the systems in which such data is stored. So third parties will have access to some of our data, I'm guessing our likeness in this instance. And that does make a sort of sense if they're cross-checking facial scans with databases elsewhere. And you might ask, who are these third-party vendors? Well, here they are, and it's quite the rogues gallery. And ultimately, it seems the service users are the ones responsible for determining how your personal information is processed. And it's up to us to contact said service users to find out what exactly the fuck they're doing with their data. Wonderful. I don't for a second trust big tech to look after my or anyone's sensitive data, let alone government-issued IDs. Putting aside the lack of trust in their ethics when it comes to having access to this kind of sensitive information, I simply don't trust any outfit to be immune from leaks and hacks. Just Google data leaks to see how frequently this kind of thing happens. Alright, back to Substack locking me out. In a definitely not blind rage, I managed to use some basic browser manipulation to get around the Persona data grab and quickly pushed out this entirely reasonable post to my site and subscribers. I also took to Twitter and tagged the official Substack account in an equally reasonable, definitely not pissy tweet, after which I went to bed. I awoke on Christmas Eve to a miracle of sorts. I again had full access to my account. And apparently I wasn't the only one who regained access without having to verify my age. So what the hell exactly was happening here?
Social media is crippling teen mental health. threatening the development of an entire generation and our future ability to meet all of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals.
36 Months, in their own words, is a social change initiative to amend legislation to raise the minimum age Australian teenagers can sign up for social media accounts from 13 to 16. This campaign was cooked up in a boardroom of an advertising production company by Michael Whippley of Nova Radio.
Your cooking tastes like a rubber tie. Yeah, I can cook. Well, you're a fat liar.
And Rob Galuzzo, the founder of the production company in question, Finch, who are behind the Get Your Bet On gambling campaign for tabs. Child safety is at the heart of the campaign, as there is mounting evidence that social media can have a negative impact on the mental health of teens. Although it seems likely there are benefits for some users and not much of an effect on others, it may be that it all depends on the individual and how they use social media. But what is clear is that for too many kids, social media is a negative force. There are certainly very real and awful outcomes associated with social media for children, including death. Using their platforms and contacts in their respective industries, Whippley and Galuzzo ran an incredibly successful campaign.
Discussing it with a mate of mine, Rob Galuzzo, who's behind 36months.com.au. We need your signature there.
The campaign collected over 127,000 signatures through change.org, which ultimately culminated in the social media ban being adopted.
Congratulations.
Larry, Kylie, great to be with you, and thank you for your support, as always, on this topic.
The noble goal of protecting children aside, the campaign, according to Crikey, also afforded business opportunities for 36 Months. There is evidence, for example, that 36 Months were promoting the sale of access to heads of state at a United Nations event run by the Australian government for a whopping $150,000 using unauthorised government and UN logos. There is a lot more reporting on the business opportunities afforded to 36 Months as a result of the campaign, and I'll drop the relevant links in the description. Crikey also point out that there are claims the Australian government sidelined a proposed online gambling advertisement ban using the social media ban as cover, following lobbying from 36 Months and News Corp on the age restriction legislation. Yeah! Crikey went on to highlight that Greg Atwells, the managing director of 36 Months, at one point worked in this role while working for Galuzzo's Finch as communications director, and they note that Finch staff worked on the campaign. They're also careful not to make any suggestions of wrongdoing. It is interesting nonetheless. As a result of 36 Months campaign and the subsequent enforcement of the social media ban, it is incumbent upon companies themselves to figure out if the law applies to them, whether they are on the ban list or not. This may be where Substack shat the bed and hired Persona to pressure people into giving up their sensitive data, which incidentally, in my opinion, doesn't really gel with statements from Substack in the past. 36 Months wasn't exactly a grassroots campaign as it has been claimed, but whether you think the ban is a good idea or not, one thing is indisputable. Social media is clearly a mess. But the question is the government-imposed ban letting big tech off the hook? Well, yes, it definitely is. Let's briefly talk about Roblox. Roblox is basically a gaming platform online where users create and share games within the platform itself. Roblox claims that half of all American children under 16 use the platform, and it's the most blocked app by parents in Australia. According to eSafety, Roblox will not be age restricted due to a regulatory overlap. Incidentally, this character is the sum of my experience with Roblox.
Oh my god, who is this fat bitch?
Bear with me here. Roblox turns over a huge revenue every year and is trending upwards. Their virtual currency Robux, which costs around 1 cent to buy 1 Robux, but 1 Robux will only get you 38% of 1 cent when cashing out, accounts for some of that. In addition, Roblox takes a 30% cut of every virtual Robux earned on the platform through in-game purchases, etc. That's a tidy little business model. Arguably exploitative practices aside, including claims of child gambling, Roblox has one big problem.
That problem being predators.
The pedophiles.
Roblox has been outright banned in some countries, and the predator problem has been cited as one of the reasons for such bans. And honestly, I can't fault the logic. But as I said, Roblox managed to escape the social media ban due to regulatory overlap. I'm not actually arguing one way or the other as to whether Roblox should be on the ban list, but it is quite odd it isn't given the supposed goal of the legislation, namely to protect children. Ultimately, what the social media ban fails to address is why is it that social media can be such a negative force? Of course, this isn't a mystery and is all out in the open. Social media is awful by design. For starters, algorithms are tailored to create, if not literal addiction, habitual use, which equates to more screen time. All of this is tied to dopamine and reward centers in the brain, but it's not simply just about getting a regular hit of dopamine, as Mr. Who's the Boss here explains.
When Sapolsky varied the experiment, randomizing the likelihood so that monkeys would only receive the treat on average 50% of the time when they pulled the lever, their dopamine levels skyrocketed to double, even though they were only receiving the reward half the time. This is called variable intermittent reward, and it's one of the most fundamental principles that social media devs use to keep you hooked.
And the reason platforms want you hooked to their app is naturally entirely driven by profit. You and your data are the product, and everything else is secondary. Let's take Facebook, aka Meta, as an example. They've been accused of negligence at best in Myanmar, which led to a genocide of the Rohingya people. Meta's algorithms pushed hate speech. They had no local moderators to speak of, and all of this resulted in posts and accounts encouraging violence against the Rohingya people going unchecked.
Why couldn't it be removed within 24 hours?
Senator, what's happening in Myanmar is a terrible tragedy. And we need to do more.
We all agree with that.
Okay.
Disgraceful inaction on moderation aside, this is what big tech does. They build algorithms which stoke engagement and more time spent on their respective platforms. It just so happens that anger and outrage are extremely potent emotions that work well for engagement. And so their algorithms pump poison into people's feeds and we end up with real world harm. The lack of concern for ethics and safety is a feature, not a bug. These bastards have been caught literally experimenting on their users without consent. Facebook, what a surprise, have been outed more than once. The worst social media of them all, LinkedIn and OkCupid, have all conducted experiments on users without consent. And these are some of the experiments we know about, and the corporations in question have faced no meaningful consequences. Who knows what else they're getting up to behind closed corporate doors. They certainly haven't been motivated in any way to change their practices. And all of that doesn't even touch on their control over information and their censorship, including suppression and destruction of evidence of crimes. Social media is a double-edged sword. There's things that are happening in the world that we would not know anything about if it wasn't for social media. But whether it's Meta or Roblox, these corporations are rogue, and age verification laws ignore the desperate need for regulation and consequences. Okay, so big tech want to use this as data cattle and harvest everything they can for profit. A fair question might be, how else can corporations verify your age without having access to all your personal information, including your likeness? Well, zero-knowledge proof technology is one possible option. Google recently made their work in this area open source, and as they say themselves, in layperson's terms, zero-knowledge proof makes it possible for people to prove that something about them is true without exchanging any other data. And that something could be your age. Here's TechLore's Henry Fisher elaborating on that.
The way this works is that, again, it's open source, it's done on your device, and all it does is it verifies mathematically with cryptography that you are either over or under 18, and then all it reports to websites is that yes, this person is or isn't over 18. There should be no one ever uploading their ID to a random website. There should never be a credit card check. They should never need your home address. It should be a very simple yes or no that's verifiably true.
Given there are other ways to enforce age verification without sacrificing user privacy, I do wonder what the motivation is for allowing these corporations to collect our data in this fashion. Is it sinister or just simply government incompetence in the face of corporate lobbying? I guess time will tell. For what it's worth, some people are still not able to get into their Substack. Well, there we have it. The internet is cooked, and I'm pretty sure this isn't going to stop with Britain and Australia. It feels like this is eventually going to be rolled out in most countries around the world, but it really doesn't have to be. And even if the social media ban and ID for access becomes ubiquitous, do we really think it's going to stop there? Do we really trust that big tech won't find some other medium we have yet to imagine where they can pull similar bullshit which results in poor health outcomes for some kids and adults? Are we just going to perpetually legislate our way out of problems that big tech create in the endless chase for revenue? Or are we going to actually force these faceless corporations to behave in an ethical manner? We could regulate their operations at the algorithmic level. We could break up these social media monopolies which are harvesting as much of our personal data as they possibly can for profit, allowing these entities to collect even more of our most sensitive personal data in the form of face scans and copies of our government-issued IDs is not going to solve the root problem of completely unregulated operations on their part. The children banned from social media today will grow into adults, and while hopefully being more equipped to navigate the increasingly hostile and poisonous online spaces, will still be exposed to these spaces and potential harms due to unregulated corporate behaviour. The most recent mess being the complete invasion of the internet by generative images and videos. OpenAI and the likes are unleashing untold harm in the world when people can no longer discern what is real and what is fiction. It's only a matter of time before one of their mis- and disinformation machines results in killings, maybe even something akin to what happened to the Rohingya people in Myanmar. Machine learning chatbots, also not regulated, may be responsible for pushing some people into psychosis and towards self-harm and even death. Machine learning has its place, particularly in scientific spaces, but there is little obvious benefit in unleashing it onto the world unregulated. This seems obvious. But hey, maybe we'll pass a law stopping kids accessing it for a few years or something.
No, I'm a terrible owner
of the Post.
For the Post, from the point of view of appearance of conflict.
Facebook has detailed profiles on people who have never signed up for Facebook, yes or no?
We collect data for people who have not signed up for Facebook.
You know, I think AI will probably, most likely sort of lead to the end of the world, but in the meantime, there will be great companies created with serious machine learning.
Well, if you're still here, thanks very much for watching. This is just a wee patrons and supporters animation screen. There's Skittle, one of my very first patron, I believe. And I try to do this for most of my videos, just a wee silly animation. This is a pretty elaborate one. There's Ryan, a good supporter as well, and a friend. I pretty much know all of my patrons, if I'm being honest. Oh, hang on a second. Okie dokie. And yeah, so this is a 3D model of Rainbow Road. There's Paul, another great supporter, and Catherine, and Will Radley Will, and Loki. And yeah, so this is a model I found online. I'll drop a credit in the description because it's a pretty cool model, but that's yours truly running. And there's Casso. Yeah, anyway, why not subscribe? And that outro music with the tech fuckers, there's a link for it in the description.